I have known him all my professional life. I consider him a dear, close friend. That's why he can ignore my calls and many entreaties to appear here. But once in a while, and that's, because we're so close, I'm not offended. Once in a while, I'll ask, and he'll agree to come on. And in this case, with the coronation in the offing, with also Taylor Swift news, these things hit the radar of our guest in a big, big way. How about it for the multi-Marconi Award winning Bean Baxter, everybody. He's the co-host of the podcast, A Cup of Tea and a Chat. Very popular podcast with Allie. I like it very much. Bean, you are British. We were talking about this before the show because Tony couldn't believe that you are British. He used to listen to you all the time on K-Rock.
Right. Well, like a lot of people, I have dual citizenship, half American, half British. I feel British. London is my home, my hometown, and a place where I've been living for most of the last 3 years. Mark, I appreciate you having me on today, but I think you've overstuffed the program today. I think you're in a world of hurt. I think it just takes one little domino to topple. The whole thing's going to go off the rails here.
I agree.
What do we have, about 45 seconds total here for my segment?
Well, I wondered why you were speaking so quickly, and I guess that's the reason. You are a nothing if not a professional, and you sense that we are up against it. But
you are.
Don't let that affect you. Let's try to have as leisurely a conversation as we can have. We can always return. You're not going back for the coronation. You're not going to Britain for the coronation.
I'm not. I wish I were there. It pains me for reasons we won't go into that I'm not at home right now, but I do still follow it with a great deal of interest. I am not, as was advertised at the top of the show, a royal watcher. It was a fair comment to put on my name. I'm really not a royal fan. I was a Queen Elizabeth fan. She was my rock, right? As you know, I have a tattoo of Queen Elizabeth on my body. That's how much of a fan I am, right? But it's a very interesting time to see.
How long did it take you to get the tattoo? How long to actually, was it a multi-day thing or not?
5.5 hours. Did it in one sitting. Yeah.
Wow. Very good.
So it's a very interesting time. Look, the coronation that is going to be happening in Westminster Abbey 1 week from Saturday is going to unfold largely the way it has for more than 900 years in that room, with the Archbishop of Canterbury presiding and all of the bells and the whistles and the scepter and the orb and the chair and the crown. All of that is going on right now. But so much has changed since the last coronation. You know, most of your listeners have never seen a coronation. This is only the second one that's ever been televised in history, right? And it's been a long time since his mother became queen, right? So it's very interesting to see what the level of excitement is in the UK right now, because Charles has been at times a deeply unpopular figure.
Sure.
In fact, 5 years ago, there was a poll of the British people who overwhelmingly said, can we just skip Charles and get right to William? He's the one we like. Which the poor man has been waiting his entire life to take this job.
It is true. He has been in the on-deck circle for too long.
He has. And I feel kind of bad for him. And I bet you do too a little bit, Mark, because in some ways, he has been a very progressive figure, particularly coming from the House of Windsor.
Yes, and on the environment, he's been out front. That's a great point, Bean.
Since he was 21 years old, he has been out there giving speeches about the environment and doing everything he can with the wind farms and everything else that he does. And he's also been on the right side of animal rights. He was the one who got foie gras taken off royal menus, those sorts of things that he's been doing, large and small, right? So I think he's a fundamentally decent guy. He is not someone who is comfortable in a crowd. He's not somebody who you feel is fun to hang out with. He's just, as opposed to his son, William, by the way, you know, William last week picked up the phone in an Indian restaurant that he was in and took an order on the phone, right, from somebody who was calling it. That's the kind of goofy stuff that a young person does. If he tried to do that, it would just be a disaster, right?
Oh, that's funny.
So
yeah.
It's very interesting. He has become more popular since he's become king, but the world has changed so much since Queen Elizabeth died. The world is in a bad shape. The UK is in a bad shape. It's had 13 years of Tory rule that has ruined that country. Brexit has been a disaster. Inflation is way out of control. And I think it's very hard for a lot of people, even if they didn't have a strong impression of the royalty or care that much, to look at the difference between them trying to afford groceries this week and seeing a man with a solid gold crown on his head with 400 gemstones. Right?
Thank you. Yeah.
I think for a lot of people, they just feel like it's out of step. Another difference. the Commonwealth, the British Empire, has collapsed since the Queen took over. When she became Queen in 1952, there were 32 countries in the Commonwealth. Charles will have 14, and 11 of those are already making their plans to exit the agreement, right? He's essentially just going to be, the UK is going to be all his overview coming up here very soon.
Well, the reality is being that he has taken on this position, which is increasingly ceremonial. I mean, I don't know. You could probably tell us the exact moment that it became ceremonial, but it's almost purely ceremonial now, right? And it was an empire, though. I think you're right to point that out.
Right.
I mean, it used to be the empire. Like the sun never set on the British Empire, right?
A famous quote. It is a ceremonial position that is meant to be non-political, which also puts King Charles III in an awkward position for reasons we've described, because he does care about these issues. And now is he supposed to what? Now that he has the biggest platform of his life, is he supposed to just ignore those and not weigh in? I'll give you one great example. Heathrow Airport, the famous international airport in London, wants to rename Terminal 5 after King Charles III. He says, no, I don't want to, because he is trying to cut down on people taking airplane rides, right? That's the sort of tug of war that's going on right now with him trying to stay non-political, but also trying to talk about the issues that are important to him.
Yeah, it's such a good point. I mean, he's really someone who has a conscience, it would seem, about the planet. I really love that.
But, I do too. I like him a lot. He also has some people who have never warmed to him, and I don't think you could watch that the weekend after this and not look at Camilla there and have feelings, if you're a British person, have feelings about her being called queen. There are some people, as unfair as it might be, who do not accept her because of the way they got together, because of the multi-year affair that caused so much heartache for his dear wife, who not only was the most popular royal other than Queen Elizabeth in history, because she died so young, she's been beatified to a certain extent. And
Sure.
Camilla can never live up to that, right? And people just largely do not want to see her as their queen. But the other side of that equation is the heart what it wants. And I know you've said that before, right? And also they've been together for over 30 years. So it's a real relationship. This wasn't a fling. This is the love of his life. And I guess we need to accept that. So there's a lot of storylines that are going on. I have no doubt that millions and millions and millions of people in countries around the world, including the United States, are going to be watching that thing, because it's just not something we see very often. But I do feel that there's a real disconnect for how British people feel about the monarchy compared to when his mother wore the crown.
It's so well said. And you're right. I mean, I think when there is this ritual, we love ritual as just as the human species, and it's a gilded ritual, as you also say. It's a bejeweled ritual. It's full of all of this gold and royal jewelry and costumes. I mean, it really is it's like going to a really long Broadway show. But I think it's, well, the selection of a new pope is not so different. The Catholic Church is drenched in some of that same stuff,
Right, a lot of ceremony. I'm glad you brought up the church, because Charles is the defender of the faith, right? That'll be part of the oath that he reads as he becomes officially king. Of course, he became king the moment his mother died, but this is when it's like being sworn in as president, right? And he is representing, he's the head of the Church of England, but he is another example of how progressive he is. He is reaching out to make it a multi-faith ceremony. There is going to be a nod. There is going to be new text added to say, I understand I'm the head of the Church of England, but we welcome people of all faiths and respect people of all faiths in the UK. And that's nice to see something like that happening.
That certainly wasn't part of the original text. Exactly.
Sure wasn't. Right. Sure wasn't. Yeah. But I also, another thing that I don't really know how religious you are. I suspect you respect it, but are not a personal believer, Mark. And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but there are people who see that part of the ceremony where the king will be anointed with this consecrated oil, I guess is what they call it. And that's the one part of the ceremony that is not televised. They do that under a little tent, right? It's too precious, it's too private, it's too personal to put on television. But the reason they do that, going back hundreds and hundreds of years, is this is a person who's been chosen by God to be your ruler. And I think that just rubs people the wrong way, because if we know nothing else in the age of mass media, we know that these are just human beings with foibles like everyone else. And it's not even like this is a bloodline that has been unbroken for centuries. It's been broken all the time. Lots of people have become king who weren't in the bloodline. So why do they still do that part, I wonder?
Yeah, that's I didn't
weird.
know that. The magic oil part. I didn't. Go ahead, Kim, real quick, our last minute with Bean, please. You got to unmute, though, when you want to join us.
I have a question about the magic oil. Is that something like they do? You say they do it under a secret tent.
That's
What's
right.
going on in there? Is there like oil massage thing happening, or like is it?
Yeah, that's
What
it,
are they
Kim. It's an oil
doing?
massage. They,
You know,
it's
I
the
don't know that
unspoken.
I don't know that
Where do they
Underside.
get the oil? Like, where's that? Would that
That's
happen?
another great question. Look,
Wow.
there's a lot of things in the church where they bless the oil, or you'll see food that is kosher because it's blessed by a rabbi or whatever. That's just part of the
I mean,
procedure.
it's special oil, Kim. I mean, come on, let's get on board.
You just don't get it.
You don't
really.
get it, Kim.
You
I mean,
don't.
come on, let's hop on board. All right, let's get
Mark,
it.
will you watch? Are you interested at all in seeing this play out next weekend?
Not particularly, but because it is, I have to say, some of the things that you said make me curious to watch. One of them is, well, there hasn't been one of these, in our lifetime type thing.
Right.
That's true. And I think just for the dog and pony show that it is, I love a show. So I think I'll probably
it is
watch
scaled down considerably. His mother had over 8,000 people at his ceremony. His is going to be less than 2. And to Charles's credit, a lot of those people in the crowd are going to be kids. They're going to be volunteers from his charitable organizations. A lot of people who ordinarily might have been invited, like MPs and whatnot, are being asked to stay home. They've created a much shorter route. They don't want to close down the city with the traffic. It's about a mile route instead of the 5-mile route that his mother went. So he is trying to make it appear smaller and more contemporary than it has in years past. But look, his family has fantastic genes. This man is older. He's 74 years old as he takes this job. He's probably going to live another 25 years, right? Charles will be around for a while.
Right. Well, you've made me appreciate him a little bit more than I did before. So there is Bean's tattoo, by the way, of the Queen. If you're listening, you can find it on YouTube. They're here at very, very nice. Bean, next time Taylor Swift, but we're out of time for this visit.
I'm going to see her in Nashville May 5th.
I know.
I'll have a review of the show for you.
That would be great. Cup of tea and a chat. We have it up there for you to see as well with Allie and Bean, 2 really talented people, if you count Allie twice. It's a great ride. It's very different than this show, and it's kind of a cool, fun visit with 2 very fun, smart people, Allie and Bean. Bean, thanks for coming here today, man. Love it.
I enjoyed it. Bye, Tony. Bye, Ken. Thank you, guys.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.